Hi everyone, my name is Jack Ananchenko. I'm a CTO and a co-founder at Stellarsoft. Today I'm joined by Anina Kistner, CEO of Bear with Benefits, a Germany-based brand, beauty supplements brand that's rethinking about how vitamins look, feel, and taste, and how they fit into the real life. You stepped in to the CEO role earlier this year from after leading the strategy and brand at Bears with Benefits, and you've got quite a bit of experience, corporate experience from Henkel and L'Oreal, as far as I saw. We'll try to dive into that a little bit more, see what you think about the future, how you think about your new role, what challenges you've got, and what your vision is like for 2026 and beyond. Welcome to the show, Anina.
Thank you for having me. Very excited to be here.
Absolutely. Sounds good. So let's start very easy with this. Given that you've been with Bears with Benefits for over a year now, maybe like 1.5 years so far, but then you only stepped into the CEO role earlier this year. Can you tell us what changed the most for you personally from the moment you took on the CEO role?
Yeah, sure. Overall, it's a very exciting adventure. In general, moving into a new role, growing personally, but also with the brand and with the company. I think we as a company are now 7 years old, so has been a very strong growth period, startup period for the first 4 to 5 years, and I think over the last two it has become more a bit more stable. I think we're still still a little startup in many ways, but in others also not. So I think bridging this has for sure also been my biggest challenge. As you said, I've been into very different corporate setups before. True, I worked also at L'Oreal in the beginning of my career, but I spent most of my working time actually in management consulting at McKinsey, where I saw obviously mostly very big companies from the inside. And I think these learnings, structures, processes that I've seen there, bringing them to a smaller company, of course not in the same way because it's absolutely not possible, but looking at like what can we leverage from larger corporations that we need now in terms of like processes when we're growing up as a brand is I think most important thing and also challenge for me.
Cool. Sounds good. And you're right. These companies are quite large, and you could have seen many different habits and like processes that these companies possess internally. Yeah, can you recall something like as far as habits go? Like, what did you do? What do you still utilize in your day to day today? Like, what corporate habits you
Yeah.
use and still help you today? And what did you have to unlearn that do not really work in smaller companies?
Yeah, sure. I think one that's for sure not a corporate practice, but a consulting practice is active problem solving, how we call it at McKinsey. It's basically that you kind of like evolve a problem to a certain level and then bring it to the group that is concerned with that. So the stakeholders usually that are relevant for that. Um, and then actively discuss solution spaces together and then come up in the end with a certain outcome or solution or at least way to go. And
Mm-hmm.
I think in consulting you learn that it's a pretty efficient method to iterate and find solutions very fast, and it's not this like isolated working on a problem for maybe a longer time before presenting or showing the solution to someone.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this like very iterative and active, proactive problem solving approach is for sure something that I kept. And I always also encourage my teams to work in this way. I'm not saying that you should bring every problem to the table before you have thought about it yourself, but really try to leverage group thinking and intelligence together and actively discuss problems to find solutions and move forward faster than like in comparison to working on the perfect solution that anyways never exists for 2 weeks alone and then trying to present it. So I think this more collaborative problem solving approach is a super key element for my working style still. And maybe something that I for sure not doing anymore, or what has changed a lot. I think you see in like large corporations a lot of time spent on actually very administrative stuff, trying to find meeting slots with certain groups, trying to align for alignment meetings, and like navigating a very political landscape in the end. And I mean, of course, with a certain size, you need also these processes in smaller companies, but I try really to have them as low as possible, and as like to really not try to start implementing routes that are, let's align before an alignment meeting, and really avoid anything that is around, okay, let's spend too much time on administrative internal logistics works,
Okay.
but be more efficient on that and be very close also. I mean, I think this is also why I'm a big fan of like working together in one office, because naturally ways are shorter and you're easier in collaborating and not building up weird political barriers or hierarchical barriers.
Cool. Okay. And so you mentioned something important before. I think it was either in private chat or I saw it somewhere in the posts, that visibility creates opportunities. And like from the SEO CEO perspective, um, why do you think it is important for the people to stay in the office? Is it like faster? Is it about faster decisions, better solutions, like that you can think about those problems with the team, brainstorm them, stronger ownership of the team, better communication between departments? Kind of like, can you unveil that,
Yeah.
unveil that for us?
Yeah, sure. I think it's three main things. So I think the first is for sure learning curve, especially for team members that haven't been working for super long. We are a very young company, so in terms of like average age of our employees. So I think the learning curve, like also when I look back at my first days of working, when there was basically no remote work. Not that I'm so old, but still it was very different. The home office didn't exist in my first years of working. I think the learning curve of people like just starting their careers is just a very different one. Sitting alone at home with your task, and maybe you are more efficient sometimes on your task at home, but you don't like have this natural observation of like what else is going on, what are other people doing, learning from other teams without actually working with them. That all happens way more naturally when you're in the office, and also like with your plus one plus two, if you do these like meetings in person, like also what I said in terms of like problem solving, catch them for a minute to just like bounce an idea. These things, they become way more difficult, I think, in remote setups. I mean, I'm also a fan of flexible working, that you have a day here and there where you work from somewhere else. Great. But it's in general, I think, learning curve wise, very favorable for everyone to be also in the office and with the people that you want to learn from in the end. I think the second point is, and this is, I think, very specific also for the industry, we as an e-commerce D2C brand are a very marketing at the core organization. The marketing team is the biggest team of our organization, and we need to have creative drive and innovation to grow the company and the brand. And creativity is difficult to achieve alone in your home. And this is something that happens between people when you have an idea and the other one adds on top and so on. So I think creative work really profits a lot from being in person and yeah, discussing ideas. I think that's the second point. And for me, the third point, it's really a cultural one. I think a company culture and like being a team that wants to achieve something together gets way more strong, like way stronger if you have a lot of touch points in person. You experience things together, good things and bad things happening across a day, across a week, and you live through them as a team and not on your own at home.
For sure. Yeah, and there is actually a very good expression about the later point. It's about decisions work really well when the teams are close to each other, especially in the strong growth phase. Like if we were to describe beers with benefits, growth phase at this point, what would you say you are in right now? What is the phase that you're in right now?
In phase in terms of what?
In terms of the growth. growth
Growth.
phase?
Yeah. Yeah, I think what is super interesting about our brand is that we have like focused a lot on international expansion over the last years. So
Okay.
this is also why parts of our business are in a different growth phase than others. We have two very big countries, Germany and Italy. These are our two biggest ones, and they
Hmm.
have now like I think reached a stage where it's more like sustainable, stable growth. But we have our new markets, Netherlands, France, Spain, but also since this year the US, where it's really exponential growth, where we really try to every month ideally double our sales. And I think they are, I mean, of course, on a way smaller scale still. But of course, in these ways, they also need a different treatment. You go way more for like brand equity awareness elements now, also in countries that are already bigger, while you're really pushing the growth playbook in the smaller countries, also in a very localized way, because they also work very differently. Especially now that we're in the US, we also realize how many regional differences we need to cater to. But I think that's is a very rare case. There are not many supplement brands that actually manage a regional footprint and international footprint in the end, like we do. Like mostly, it's local heroes, companies that have a very successful business case in one country, and maybe sometimes expand to one or two more. But how we have done it now, that we are present in 8 and growing to more countries, I think it's really unique, and this is also determining a lot our growth strategy in the end, or growth stage. And this is e-commerce only. Of course, we have also different channels. We have also retail channels that we're then building up in the countries where we already reach a certain maturity stage. And this is then, of course, then growth that is more happening than more on the omnichannel side versus the D2C side.
Okay. And you're a Germany-based brand initially, correct?
Yes,
So,
correct.
can you walk us through, maybe like you haven't been with BB um, before and at those stages, but then can you tell us a little bit more and walk us through the experience of how you choose the next country you'd like to be present at, given that Germany and then the next one was Italy, but then what was the decision-making process to choose Italy as your next country?
Yeah, sure. I mean, Italy actually happened quite organically. We had a lot of inbound from Italian influencers asking if they can test our products.
Okay.
And we gave them the products to test. They talked about with their community about them, and then they tried to order them from Germany. And this is okay for a certain time, but you realize quite quickly that gets too expensive if you continue like this. So at that point, we decided, okay, there must be some kind of demand, interesting demand, also
Hmm.
from Italy. So we moved there, but this was really out of inbound interest in the end.
Hmm.
But seeing that and how it also worked, it was kind of like a next clear thought on the roadmap that it would also be interesting to explore other countries if we have now managed to be quite on a similar scale in from the outside quite different countries with Germany and Italy. So we thought, okay, then if this is working, then maybe also other southern European countries are working that are close, and maybe also other countries that are close to Germany, like the Netherlands, are working well, that have a kind of like cultural proximity. So with this, we also decided kind of like what are our expansion countries and moved into them. I mean, we're also in Switzerland. It's for most German brands like this because it's also, of course, language-wise quite close. But this is like basically how we choose then Spain, France, and Netherlands as expansion countries to go to. Also we belong as a brand to a French group, that's
Okay.
Havea, which is also a European leader in supplements, in the supplement industry as a whole, with 6 different brands. We're the only like really e-commerce focused brand that is present, especially in Germany and Netherlands. So
Hmm.
there we have also this French angle, of course, why we are also focusing on this market as well. But it doesn't also mean that necessarily we always keep every country exactly the way we enter them. So if of course it's a question of market density, competition density, how much of a playground can we actually grab for us, and
Mm-hmm.
where do we really resonate with the consumer. And I think the US for this year, I mean, this is a very different decision than going to a European market, which is much easier to enter for us, while going to the US needs a completely different playbook and setup. And here we also put way more time into the preparation. But there, of course, you see the extreme upside in case it works and we really get a foot into the door.
Awesome. Okay. And like if we were to compile a cheat sheet for any supplements brand that would like to like that is already present, for instance, in any country in Europe, but then they want to explore any new market for them, whatever that is, like another country in Europe, UK or the US, what would be like the step by step, like high level, like hey, explore if there is any market, what are your competitors, etc., kind of like in this passion, in this way to describe what their step by step will look like.
Yeah. I think, I mean, it also, of course, depends a lot on the product and how easy it is to internationalize it. Because yes, I think first glance you should do is for sure what's the market potential, how fragmented or like how dense is the competition already in that market. If you see that there is already a huge like a density of competitors doing having exactly the same product and generating market share there already for a couple of years, it's maybe not the easiest way to enter. I'm not saying
Yeah.
it's not maybe not working. If you have a superior product, maybe you will get it all from them, but
Uh-huh.
probably it's a bit more difficult. I think that's the first thing in terms of like when you look at which market. And then second, you need to understand regulatory in the specific market for your product. Because for
Mm-hmm.
example, for supplements, it's very different what you can actually sell by country. In the EU, there is a certain regulation that it's mostly applicable for all European countries. But then it becomes very different if you go outside the EU. And even inside the EU, for example, you have very different regulations what you can claim about certain ingredients. It's really sometimes about a single ingredient that is different. Or if you can even sell it or use it. Melatonin is a very good example. You have very different regulations. Netherlands versus Germany, how much you can actually put in or if you can sell it at all. So I think really depends on also like what are you selling. And I mean, if that has a different regulatory challenge for a new market. So I think I would for like beyond like if the market is interesting, then look at what is an easier to enter market where you don't have to fully change your product if it's a test. So where you
Uh-huh.
can easily go and say my product is applicable for that market as well without me like producing a completely new batch with a new formulation or a new translation. So I mean for many brands I think it's also a question of translation. Where can you easily test this? And I think then it's also finding and a way to enter that is operationally, I mean, easy is
Profitable.
always the wrong word, but it's quite feasible. So where can you maybe just start like testing a couple of ads? You don't need a separate warehouse. Where can you just like see if there is traction through like some activations, testing some creators, some bookings, some campaigns to see if there is initial demand. And if you see that, you can maybe go further. So I think like starting small, testing little angles, and using the ways where it's a good application of your existing products. I mean, in terms of like risk level, that's probably the easiest way. Some like to take way bigger risks directly. I mean, of course, it's maybe a different story then. Um, but yeah, in terms of like risk hedging a bit and making sure testing a market, these are probably the steps I would take.
Gotcha. Thank you so much for that. And what do you think the supplements brands like get wrong about the real customer behavior? Like what do they miss these days?
That's a good question. I mean, I think what is the most challenging thing for the customer right now is actually the variety of offers that you have and to navigate through them. And I mean, we do also do a lot of consumer research and studies. And I think the main and most important feedback we always get is to make it as easy as possible for the customer to understand and navigate. Which is, of course, also challenging from a regulatory side because it's not super straightforward what you can even say about a product where it should help or might help the customer. So it's a challenge and a balancing act for the brand. But overall, I think making it as clear as possible and as easy to understand as possible is probably where customers struggle the most to make decisions in that industry with like an expanding offering on the other side. And I think, yeah, that's, I think, the main thing.
What do you think about retention? Like, is it very important for the supplement brands to not only sell once, but also kind of like make the customer buy again?
Yes, I mean, in the end, retention is the key of the business model of supplements because you think you should never think about any supplement in a way that you take it once and then it works. It's always a change of routines, a change of habits. So in this industry, you need to convince your customer and your community that this is something to integrate in your daily life. I think with our products, the gummy bears, it's a super pleasant integration into the daily life of the consumer. This is also why our customers like the product so much. It's not something that you forget because you really like to eat the gummies. They taste great and you have the benefits of a supplement even with a higher bioavailability. So I think it's really thinking about where do you fit into the routine, and if you are in a routine, then also the retention question is answered, I think. Also from a business model perspective, I think retention is for every e-commerce brand the key to a profitable business model in the end, because we see externally rising costs in all marketing channels where we acquire our customers. So it becomes more and more difficult to be really profitable at your first order, and to generate the second order is really also as a company where you can actually then also become profitable, which you need to. And because I think the days where you can just like grow with a very unprofitable business model for years are over, at least for now. So there it's really all about retention, that you get to the second and ideally third and fourth order of the customer, being it through a very strong retention marketing and CRM and like email and WhatsApp or subscription models. This is really in the end the key.
Yeah, I actually had another podcast the other day, and the guy said that like he's also the CEO and the founder at the same time. So he said that I'm willing to be on the break even or at a loss level for the first customer, but I'll do my best to do everything that I can to make sure that he buys again or subscribes to my product. So it's basically the challenge. It looks like it's a challenge for every CEO of the company. How do you approach that? Like as you said, phone marketing, email marketing. Kind of like upsells. What are the biggest like successes that you see in bears with benefits?
Yeah, I think the beauty of e-commerce in the end is that you have so much data. So we see through our daily dashboards every movement in every channel where we need to, how much can we actually invest to acquire new customers on that day versus how much do we need to generate from existing customers. And we can navigate and balance that every single day, and we actually have to get to the right balance to remain like a profitable business that acquires customers and grows, but also has a strong focus on retention marketing. So in the end, using this data is really the absolute key for us. Otherwise, it wouldn't be possible, because you can't just like today send out campaigns in every direction and then look after 1 month how did it perform. You need to be on top of that every single morning. This is what me, also our CMO, is doing every morning to navigate the business correctly and say, okay, we need more push in CRM, we need more push in acquisition to exactly always manage that balance. And I think for us, it's really like, I mean, this testing different models also by market. Where can we leverage subscriptions nicely? Where is it more CRM automations? Where is it more campaign-based reactivations? It's actually very different by country. And I think there a lot of testing is also what we're doing to always get to a higher retention level of the customer in the best possible way.
Cool. Okay. What is your tech stack today? Just for the listener, I know
Yeah.
approximately, but for the listeners.
I mean, on the e-commerce side, we are running on Shopify. We have a Shopify Plus set up. We have one shop by market running on there. So it's not one shop that is translated, but we have really a different URL by market. So 8 shops by now. And this is, I mean, regarding our D2C model, of course, the most important tool and platform with a lot of integrations. We're also currently working on a new theme, which will be very interesting and be rolled out soon. If you're lucky, 10% of our traffic, then you already see the new theme right now. We started to test it this week.
Okay, cool. Maybe testing.
Yeah, very exciting.
Okay.
So this is really, I mean, in the end, the core our Shopify platform. But data-wise, we use Klar as a data D2C dashboard tool where we do a lot of course, analysis with on also steering. So this is our, let's say, source of truth when it comes to our e-commerce data and also our attribution model that we use via Klar. So these are, I think, the two main things on the e-commerce side. I mean, of course, on the tech stack, there's also a lot of other things on our ERP, how our warehouses are connected, how our stocks are managed, and so on. But I think like front end e-commerce wise, these are the two main things that we're using Shopify and Klar to steer the business on a daily basis.
Okay, cool. And there is a very popular, I would say, arguments in the internet where people basically try to emphasize their opinion about whether the tech has to support your business or it should enable new venues for you. And for you being a CEO rather than a CTO, like from that perspective, like from the very high level perspective, what do you think about your tech stack today from that perspective? Do you think it should enable new venues, new functionalities, new options, or is it more of a support basis and you mainly focus on the marketing?
I do think it should enable new venues because I mean we always try to improve the user experience for our customer when I think about Shopify. So whenever there's a new release and we have new features available, we always have a very close look on how can they improve our user experience, what can we test. And I mean, of course, there we also depend in the end a little bit on the availability of new evolutions and new features, new apps that help us to improve that user experience. I mean, of course, there's also some things that we're building on our own, but I think as this whole tool enables in the end the way we are doing business right now, it also should evolve like this.
Cool. Okay, and if we were to imagine bears with benefits in like 2 to 3 years from now, what do you think your best setup will look like? Like, would you like to change anything? Do you face any challenges that you would love to change sometime in the future?
I think on the basic setup in terms of like tools we're using, etc., not for now. I think what will be super important for us is that these tools grow in their usability as well. I mean, right now we have a lot of like new AI-based applications in there, and this needs to evolve so that like changes that we want to do become easier, need less effort to test new routes, new applications, and also new experience routes. I think still a lot of things that we want to test in our stores did still take a lot of like effort and are very coding intensive. While I think the tools, the way that we are using them, should make that easier going forward with easier prompts, with easier, less buggy applications. We are also in a very like how our model works is also that we try a lot of different campaign types. So you have a campaign where you get free products for the price of two or four for the price of three. Then you have sometimes discount codes. You have a free gift. So we have different mechanics, and it's not yet super straightforward how we integrate them for every campaign. It's still quite a lot of effort, and I think these things should be way easier prompt-based applications without like a risk of a lot of bugs and stock risks and so on. And I think this is where we should for sure be more efficient and easier and seamless in the next 2 years
Cool. And
via these tools.
abs- absolutely. And with this conversation happening, what do you generally think about the network, about the partnerships? Like, do you think the brands should look for the partnerships with the other brands, with other supplements brands, with other e-com products, with the other, I don't know, like local businesses, retailers in terms of the growth in general? Like, do you see that as part of the growth of any brand?
Yes, I mean, we do that in terms of like complementary brands. So we do a lot of campaigns together with brands where we say there is a complementary or a strategic fit to our product. For example, we have a lot of beauty supplements, so we also collaborate a lot with beauty brands on product bundles, on campaign types, on events, and so on, because we think that's the natural habitat of our consumer where they look for the one product and then probably also look for the other. So this is what we're for sure doing. What we're not doing a lot or not at all is collaborate with competing brands. In the end, I think we're trying to be always as differentiated as much as we can.
Okay. And what is the thought process behind this? Is it because you kind of like you are competitors and that's it, and you don't want to be involved instead?
No, I think it's more like, I mean, in the end, it's a highly competitive market, the supplements industry. So I
Of
think
course, I understand.
in the end, we want to speak to our customer alone on that front. And I think for that industry, not saying that we don't like any of our competitors, we do. And there's also a lot of exchange happening. So, and a lot of knowledge sharing. But I don't think like campaign wise, if their products are too close, it makes too much sense. But on the complementary side, it does.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. If we were to speak about beers with benefits in several years, what do you think? What do you hope people will say about your company? Not just about what it sells, but how it operates. Like,
Yeah.
what do you hope to have by then?
I mean, for us, it's really the goal to become the leading fem health brand in the supplement industry. So what we're trying with all our products and also our new product is really to cater to not only like the very obvious, straightforward needs of a women, like having nice hair, but also to go more and more niche on the like really single needs that women have. And I think this overall femme health space is a space that has been very like delivery of products focused on these areas, also knowledge wise, has been way too low for decades. And I think there is a lot of potential to cater to these needs in a way more personalized and individual way that it's currently happening in the market. There is a lot of traction, and we see more and more brands also focusing on that. But I think for us, it's really, as we have already, I think, a quite big footprint to really become the leading femme health brand in this industry, and not only in Germany or Italy, but really across Europe and ideally North America.
Operations wise, do you see AI being part of it in the future?
Of course, I mean, the AI is already part of our daily work, being it in content creation. I mean, there we have, I mean, elevated the processes a lot this year through AI. At the same time, what I said about like how our developing teams work already, it's helping them a lot. So I think it's already part of our daily lives. We are looking a lot of like customer service tools. that are AI enabled, but at the same time on the operations and on the finance side. So we really every like I mean I think also my role as a CEO is in the end to challenge the processes, the status quo every day, to see where can we be better and where can we improve, and not only by working faster in the same way, but where can we change the way of working with new tools that we have available. And that, of course, AI is a huge lever what we're trying to implement as much as we can.
Okay, I see. And what are your goals for 2026? What do you what do you want to get to by the end of next year?
Mm. I think for us, I mean, I gave a little teaser already. So we're looking at a new website setup, a new theme. So rolling that out successfully is, of course, it's one of the biggest projects that we're having and goals. It already has started. So I think we're on a good track.
Okay.
Let's see how customers also receive the new layout. I love it. So this is one. And then I think, as I said, we just entered the US this year. So expanding our North America footprint is a super big focus for us also in 2026. Yeah. And I think, especially for Germany and Italy, where we're the biggest, is also to catch the customer at even more touch points. And this is for me like this omnichannel experience to expand also our retail presence in the right way. So we get even more, like the customer is even more aware and has more access to our products.
Awesome. This is a great goal. Well, good luck with that. And then the
Thank you.
last one,
Yeah.
about you personally, I would
Yeah.
say, what kind of CEO do you want yourself to be remembered if you were to look back at this stage, at where you are right
Oh,
now?
wow. Yeah. I think for me, what I just said like a minute ago, I love to be the person who always challenges the status quo and tries with her team to get a little bit better every day on everything we're doing. Not always a big leap every day, but like this, I believe a lot in this like incremental improvement with every step that we're doing or repeating, to review how have we done it? Has it been the best that we could have done? What can we change for next time? And this like continuously improving our processes and challenging the status quo is, I think, one thing that I'm like very very much focused on. I think secondly, even though we are at a quite established level now as a brand, we're still small, and I think dreaming big should never stop, especially in this industry that is also super nicely growing across the globe, and more attention is coming to it every single day. So I think not trying to dream big of where we can go and making big steps, even though we haven't reached a certain level, is clearly something that I really want to keep and also radiate, and also try to encourage everyone in the team to think about. And I think thirdly, and this is something that I say really often, I really love to enable an environment where everyone feels that they can have an impact every single day. And I think especially in e-commerce, where you have this direct response, you change a banner and you see a change. So you change a color in the buy button, you see a change. Everyone can have an impact every day, everyone. And I think having a company and a culture where everyone feels that is my ultimate goal, culturally wise.
Awesome. Establish the culture, new goals, new website, new markets, lots of different things. This podcast, and thank you so much for joining. Thank you for sharing your
Sure.
vision, your context, your culture around the team setup, about the office, about how you deal with the retention, how you deal with the sales in general, what your vision is like for the next set of years. It was insightful for anyone who is not aware, who is not familiar with the brand. Please check out Bears with Benefits with dashes in between.com, and then you'll be able to get redirected to any of your markets, whatever out of 8 that they've got so far available. Anina, thank you so much for joining the podcast.
Thank you so much.